Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Vosh, conservatives being hypocritical, and you're going to say that, and then you're going to put your hand on your head like this, and you're going to faint onto a fainting couch because the sheer shock of the idea of conservatives being hypocritical should be enough to send any of you into a stupor. But here we are. So, if you asked the average American what the party of law and order was, what would they tell you? You know, like, what's the party that keeps talking about the importance of respecting police and the law and being hard on crime? And, well, it's time to disobey all order. How do you do Charlie Kirk's voice? All orders that violate our natural rights. No more curfews, lockdowns, or authoritarian measures. Disobey, resist, defy, open America. Weren't these people literally just like a few months ago talking about the rule of law when it came to Black Lives Matter? It's not just Charlie Kirk either. This is becoming like an orthodox conservative opinion that that handling a pandemic and the laws, look at this. Civil disobedience, calling on all patriots to disobey. I could react incredulously to this, but anyone who knows how American conservatism works understands that this is pretty par for the course. So let me lay it out for you, okay? When black people are protesting police and brutality, injustice, systemic inequality, the rule of law is extremely important. If a black kid gets capped by an officer in the back of the head because they were somewhere within 3 blocks of a crime scene that ended up being committed by a white guy, well, sorry, Mr. Black Guy. Rule of law should have been inside or something. I don't know. There's probably a law for that. Any perceived George Floyd. What did he with the what was it? He got called on. He had fentanyl. Sorry, drugs are illegal. Time to die. The absolute seething contempt that conservatives have for especially black people when it comes to civil disobedience is unfathomable. They scream about cities being on fire. They scream about how America's rule of law is being torn down. They do this with immigration too. Even though, mind you, being an illegal immigrant is like an incredibly minor infraction of the law. Like the actual like violation of the law, it's very, very, very minor. They will scream because the data supports immigration. Like immigrants don't hurt the economy. They don't hurt us fiscally. They don't hurt us culturally. They don't commit more crime. So usually when conservatives run out of arguments against like naturalizing the undocumented immigrants we have in our country, they default to like, well, rule of law, they broke the law, so like we can't reward that. But then they go ahead and do shit like this. So let me see if I understand this properly. When we have a historic civil rights protest, that's when rule of law matters most. But when we're trying to deal with a fucking pandemic, now it's time for all of the citizens to rise up and to fight against, they say even cops, dude. Look at this. Any police officer who enforces unlawful COVID curfews, first of all, that's not what unlawful means, does not serve the American people, and any American who resists will be right to do so. Look at that. Any American who resists the police would be right to do so if the police are attempting to enforce COVID curfews. But curfews enforced by governors following BLM protests, that's totally legitimate. Listen, conservatives don't give a fuck about the law. They don't give a single shit about the law. If it were lefties saying this about literally anything, Fox News would be lighting up. President Trump would be lighting up about these instigators, these terrorists. They would be called terrorists. What is this? Disobey, resist, defy? If there were people saying this, and they were with BLM, they were being called terrorists because they were inciting civil disobedience against police officers. Look, if you believe that America, which is currently buckling under the weight of COVID-19, if you believe that America um, it is fundamentally un-American. It is unethical for us to implement these COVID lockdowns or to implement curfews or to do any of these restrictions. Okay, I mean, you're kind of a fucking idiot. Because by the way, I've never met a person who opposed lockdowns who didn't also not understand how COVID-19 works. That's the key distinction there. If I met a person who, if I met a person who opposed lockdowns or opposed any mandates, but also perfectly understood what COVID-19 is, what it does, how rapidly it's spreading through society, and still held those positions, maybe we could have that discussion. But everybody who opposes these government measures are also the people who downplay the virus. So it's like COVID-19, or not COVID-19, sorry. It's like climate change deniers, you know? Climate change deniers will be like, we can't, do you know how expensive it would be to build all these solar panels? And you're like, yeah, but the world's going to end. And then they're like, well, no. Like, maybe it gets like a little hotter, but like, isn't that good for the environment for it to be hotter? Then it means the plants eat more oxygen. Then you're like, no, it's not good. Like, we're seriously gonna, like, the planet will be made uninhabitable for human life. And they're like, no, and you're really not selling me on the cost of those solar panels. That's the thing. You can only have a reasonable discussion about solutions to a problem when you agree on the severity of the problem. Anyway, tangent. Whatever the case may be, listen, always remember, always and forever remember, conservatives don't give a fuck about law. They don't give a fuck about the rule of law. They don't give a fuck about order. The only thing conservatives care about, the only thing they've ever cared about, is using the law when it can suppress minorities. That's it. Look back throughout history. Every single time conservatism has worn the mantle of law and order, it has been against minorities. They did it against the gay people back in the 1980s. They did it against the civil rights protesters back in the day. And wouldn't you know it, if you go back far enough, you'll see the exact same law and order rhetoric being applied to crackdowns against abolitionists back during the slave days. That, you know, it's lawful and orderly to allow slave masters to continue to own their property, and that it is a disruption of that order to protest in favor of the humanity of black people. This law and order shit is and always has been a fucking dog whistle, okay? From day one. You people don't give a fuck about law and order. Republicans have been jerking themselves off about rising up and overthrowing the government, like relentless. Like, that's every day you listen to fucking conservative talk radio, and they're like, yeah, listen up, you fellow patriots. I hope all you went out there and took advantage of the ammunition sales that went on 4th of July, because we're going to be needing that pretty soon when the cops start coming to your door and you're going to shoot them. Like, these people don't care about law and order. They care about law and order in very specific intersections of law and civil activism when it's possible to use that as a bludgeon against black people, indigenous people, or other minority groups that are trying to protest. But yeah, just please keep that in mind, okay? And they're going to keep doing this too, by the way. They will oscillate between these positions rapidly. They will nonstop vibrate between these. Anyway, the point that I'm laboriously trying to get to is conservatives are pieces of shit, and they are anti-life. At least the big people like this, anti-life, okay? That's what they are. I don't know what else you can say about COVID-19. Remember back when everyone was sanitizing their groceries because of COVID-19? Like, everyone was being real careful about it. Right now, we have like 10 times the number of cases per day that we had back then. And they're doing shit like this. You know, the only reason this country is buckling so hard under COVID-19 is because of people like this. We're going to be doing this shit until fucking 2025, okay? Even some states will do better than others, of course, because some states have more Democrats than others. We see where it's exploding right now. It's in the fucking Midwest. The Midwest is the place that's buckling the most right now under COVID-19. You know why? So many of these people, you know, you can see it on Twitter. The nurses, the ER techs, they come in, they type their little threads. So many of them have said it, I swear to God. And I know this is anecdotal, but so many of them have said, you know, these people, they die of COVID-19. They don't even think COVID-19 is real. A lot of these people who are dying of COVID-19, they think they're being misdiagnosed by doctors. COVID-19 is fake. They think they have some other thing, you know? They die not believing in the thing that's killing them. I don't know how to describe this other than anti-life, frankly. I don't know how else. Yeah. Pretty grim stuff.